The wind howls across a vast, unforgiving Atlantic in 1930. Waves crash against the hull of a solitary steamship slicing through gray waters. A lone man stands on the deck, collar turned against the biting cold, one hand pressed tightly to a small leather bag held close to his heart. Inside that bag lies a modest golden trophy, weighing less than 4 kilograms, its surface catching faint glimmers of distant light. No grand welcome awaits him on the far shore. No cheering crowds know his name. Most who hear of his journey dismiss him as a dreamer, perhaps even a fool. Yet Jules Rimet stands there smiling, eyes locked on the endless horizon. In that simple bag, he carries something far heavier than gold. An idea so bold it could bridge continents, heal divisions, and give the world a common language spoken not in words, but in passion, skill, and shared glory. What if one game could unite humanity where politics and war had failed? Let us travel back further, to a world still raw from industrial smoke and imperial ambitions. The late 19th century pulses with change. Factories rise, empires expand, and on the misty, windswept fields of Britain, a new force is born from the simple joy of play. On a bitterly cold Tuesday afternoon, November 30th, 1872, Glasgow's Hampden Park becomes the stage for something historic. Two teams emerge onto the grass, England clad in white, Scotland in deep, resolute blue. For thousands spectators brave the chill, stamping their feet for warmth. 90 grueling minutes unfold with no goals scored, no dramatic flourishes, just pure contest between two nations choosing a football pitch over swords or treaties. It ends in a draw, seemingly ordinary. But that unremarkable match plants a seed whose roots will spread across the globe, transforming how humans connect forever. From those humble British origins, football surges like an unstoppable tide. It leaps from schoolyards where boys chase balls stitched from rags into the grand capitals of Europe. It sails across the Atlantic, igniting fiery passion in South American streets where children play barefoot on dusty grounds. It reaches deep into Africa and Asia, where communities discover in its rhythm a universal language of triumph and heartbreak. This was no invention of royalty or generals. It belonged to the people. The roar of boots striking turf, the collective gasp as a ball arcs toward the net, the pure ecstasy when an underdog rises against all odds. By the roaring 1920s, football claims its place on the Olympic stage, but something greater is stirring. In 1924, the Olympic Stadium in Paris witnesses a miracle. A small South American nation, Uruguay, steps onto the pitch. Few in Europe even know where to find it on a map. Yet these players move with breathtaking speed, creativity, and unbridled joy that leaves seasoned European teams bewildered. The crowd falls into stunned silence, then rises in thunderous applause. Uruguay claims Olympic gold. 4 years later, they do it again. A tiny nation from across the ocean has humbled the old powers. Europe stands stunned, forced to confront a new reality. The beautiful game knows no borders, no favorites, only those brave enough to dream. Watching these upsets with growing conviction is Jules Rimet, a French football administrator with a vision that burns brighter than any stadium floodlight. He sees beyond national rivalries and Olympic shadows. He imagines a dedicated world championship for football alone, a grand stage where nations compete as equals, fostering understanding through sport rather than conflict. In 1928, at a pivotal FIFA Congress, Rimet rises and makes his impassioned proposal. The vote passes. The World Cup is born. Now, 2 years later, he sails toward Uruguay, the first host, clutching that golden trophy like a fragile promise amid the Great Depression's grip. Money is scarce. Journeys are perilous. Europe largely refuses the call, citing costs and distance. Yet, 13 nations commit. Only 4 come from Europe: France, Belgium, Yugoslavia, and Romania, where King Carol II personally reviews and selects every player on the squad. Imagine a king choosing his country's football heroes. As the ship pitches through stormy seas, Rimet feels the weight of destiny. This idea, that 22 men and a ball could bring the world closer, hangs in the balance. Failure could bury it forever. Success might change everything. The trophy in his bag seems to pulse with possibility and peril. What awaited on the other side? July 13th, 1930 dawns in Montevideo. The Estadio Positos vibrates with raw energy. A young French player, Lucien Laurent, only 23 years old, controls the ball and strikes a clean volley. The net bulges. History records its first World Cup goal. The roar shakes the stands. Matches unfold with shocking twists. Underdogs defy expectations. On July 30th, a crowd of 93,000 packs the stadium for the final. Hosts Uruguay against rivals Argentina. Tension crackles in the air. Uruguay triumphs 4-2. Rimet walks onto the sacred pitch, hands the trophy to the captain, and watches a nation erupt in joy. His dream has taken its first breath. But the true revelation runs deeper than any scoreboard. In football, the small can topple the mighty, the unknown can claim immortality, and no outcome is ever written in stone. 2 decades later, that truth explodes onto the global stage in the most devastating way imaginable. 1950, Rio de Janeiro. The newly built Maracana Stadium, a concrete colossus meant to hold nearly 200,000, becomes a cauldron of national pride. Brazil, the host and undisputed favorite, faces Uruguay in the decisive match. They need only a draw to win it all. The entire country has already begun celebrating. Streets overflow with parties, music, and anticipation of glory. Then, against every expectation, Uruguay scores. And scores again. The final whistle pierces a stunned silence. Brazil falls 2-1 in what becomes known as the Maracanazo, the greatest shock in football history. Millions sit in collective disbelief. Years afterward, the Uruguayan hero who scored the winner would reflect with a wry smile that only 3 figures ever truly silenced the mighty Maracana: Frank Sinatra, the Pope, and himself. The lesson burned into history. Never underestimate the fire in an underdog's heart. Yet greater darkness loomed for the young tournament. World War II devours entire cycles. No World Cup in 1942 or 1946. Stadiums transform into military bases. Players exchange boots for rifles. The dream itself seems extinguished. And the golden trophy? It faces mortal danger in occupied Rome. FIFA official Ottorino Barassi acts with extraordinary courage. Under the cover of night, he slips into the offices, retrieves the trophy, wraps it carefully in old cloth, and hides it inside a plain shoebox beneath his own bed. For years, as bombs rain and armies clash, Barassi checks that box every single night, guarding the symbol in terrified secrecy. One man's quiet, desperate faith keeps hope alive through humanity's darkest hour. Would the World Cup ever return? It does. And new dramas unfold. In 1966, just before the tournament in England, the Jules Rimet Trophy is brazenly stolen from a public exhibition. A nation panics. Massive searches fail. 4 days of anguish pass until a scrappy dog named Pickles, sniffing around a suburban garden in South London, uncovers a package wrapped in newspaper beneath a bush. Inside, the trophy. Pickles becomes an instant national hero, receiving fan letters and television fame. Once again, the World Cup survives against impossible odds, not through power, but through resilience and a touch of the miraculous. Through these storms, legends rise from hardship. At the 1958 World Cup in Sweden, a skinny 17-year-old from Brazil's poorest neighborhood steps into the spotlight. Edson Arantes do Nascimento, known to the world as Pelé, grew up so. Impoverished, he practiced endlessly with a grapefruit stuffed inside a sock. His father was a footballer whose dreams fell short, but young Pelé vowed to soar higher. In the final, he scores 2 breathtaking goals as Brazil claims its first title. When the whistle blows, the teenager collapses onto the grass in overwhelming emotion. Teammates carry him off like a hero from myth. At 17, he is already the king of the game. Pelé's brilliance faces new tests. In 1962, injury strikes early, sidelining him for the tournament. Brazil seems destined to crumble without its star. But another hero emerges from the shadows. Manuel Francisco dos Santos, affectionately called Garrincha, the little bird. Born with severely deformed legs that curved in opposite directions, doctors predicted he would never walk properly, let alone play. Yet Garrincha dribbles with mesmerizing joy and genius, weaving past defenders as if dancing on air. He carries Brazil to victory almost single-handedly, proving that true greatness defies physical limits and medical doubt. The little bird flies. By 1970, in the searing heat of Mexico, Brazil assembles perhaps its greatest ensemble. Pelé alongside Tostao, Rivellino, Carlos Alberto, and others who move as one unified mind. Against Italy in the final, they produce poetry in motion. Carlos Alberto receives a visionary pass from Pelé and strikes without breaking stride. That goal remains etched as the greatest team effort in World Cup history. Brazil wins 4-1 and claims the Jules Rimet Trophy permanently after 3 triumphs. The world names their style Jogo Bonito, the beautiful game. Tears stream down Pelé's face as teammates embrace him. A photographer captures the moment, an image that defines an era. Still, the tournament's soul demanded greater inclusion. For too long, Africa, Asia, and other regions watched from the outside, their talents ignored. At the 1966 World Cup in England, all African nations boycotted in protest over unfair qualification rules. Their unified voice rang clear: "We exist, and we will no longer be sidelined." The message lands. From 1970 onward, dedicated spots open. The field expands to 24 teams in 1982, welcoming more stories. In 1994, the United States hosts, planting seeds in a nation where football was once unfamiliar. American children watch in awe and later build thriving leagues. 2002 brings co-hosting to South Korea and Japan, Asia's proud moment. 2010 marks Africa's historic hosting in South Africa, where vuvuzelas create an unforgettable wall of sound, a continent announcing it belongs at the center. Then, in 2022, a new pinnacle of defiance and pride. Morocco, a North African side written off by many, defeats Belgium, Spain, and Portugal in stunning fashion. They advance to the semifinals, the first African team ever to reach that height. When Achraf Hakimi slots home the winning penalty against Spain, he doesn't rush to his teammates first. He runs straight to the stands and throws his arms around his mother, who had worked tirelessly cleaning houses in Madrid to give her son this opportunity. That embrace, pure joy, tears, and generational sacrifice, spreads across the world like wildfire. Millions share the photograph. In that instant, the World Cup transcends sport. It becomes a mirror of the human spirit, resilience, family, and dreams realized against every obstacle. Today, that spirit prepares for its grandest chapter yet. In 2026, the tournament expands dramatically to 48 teams, hosted jointly by the United States, Mexico, and Canada across 16 vibrant cities. From the sun-baked pitches of Guadalajara to the bustling energy of New York and the crisp air of Vancouver, the world converges. Nations long on the periphery will finally step into the spotlight. Billions, more than 3/4 of all humans alive, will tune in from living rooms, street corners, bars, and remote villages. They speak countless languages, carry diverse histories, yet when the referee's whistle pierces the air on opening day, everything aligns. For 90 minutes, differences dissolve into shared wonder. From that first scoreless draw in Glasgow to a trophy hidden nightly in a shoebox, rescued by a loyal dog, and lifted by heroes who rose from poverty and doubt, the World Cup has endured wars, economic collapse, theft, and skepticism. It stands as proof that one man's quiet belief, carried across stormy oceans, can reshape the world. Jules Rimet did not know the full glory his idea would achieve. He simply refused to let it die. You, watching right now, may carry your own unspoken dream, an ambition others dismiss as unrealistic, a long journey with uncertain shores ahead. Think of the boy practicing with a grapefruit in the dust, the little bird whose legs doctors condemned, the official guarding hope beneath his bed, the mother whose sacrifices fueled her son's triumph. Their courage changed everything. The World Cup belongs to every dreamer, every underdog, every soul who dares to chase a ball and a better tomorrow. It belongs to you. History never favors the cautious. It remembers those brave enough to sail into the unknown. Which moment from this epic journey touched you deepest? The secret shoebox guardian, the heroic dog Pickles, Pelé's tears of joy, or Hakimi's embrace with his mother? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your story could inspire the next generation. Until the next whistle blows, keep believing. The beautiful game and your own dreams await.